Mr. Sean.
Hey, Sherry, how are you?
Was that a setup
It
question?
was totally a setup.
Okay, before I answer you and we get to talk about I'm fine, let's just say hello and welcome back to the Hard Stuff's Okay to anybody who's been following along or anybody who's brand new. Sean and I, oh my goodness, Sean, I actually looked it up to see when we first met, but let's just play our game of years ago when we were
Oh,
children.
in the early 70s. No, we've been meeting together to do this group for, I'm going to get, okay, I'm going to do an honest guess. It's 2 years ago, where Sherry and I were grabbing coffee and we noticed that we were both reading the same book by Susan Cain called Bittersweet. And that book talked a lot about the feeling of bittersweet, which is joy mixed with sorrow, and how connected that can be. Um, and we were noticing in our community as certified high performance coaches that sometimes you could lean a little too positive and didn't feel like there's space to say how you really were feeling. Like you
Yeah.
had to kind of perform. And so we wanted to create a space where we could actually talk about that type of behavior and pattern and anything else that was and hold space for the hard things because we contain multitudes, which I say all the time.
I love that Sean says this, and I think I'm gonna just make sure we say it every single time, right? So that was Walt Whitman, right? Even though I always attribute it to you.
Mhm.
Yeah, we contain multitudes. And I think it's become such a beautiful thing when we do these groups. So we always do a live group with people before this Facebook Live. And then we come here and we
Mhm.
just get to just talk about it so that we remember and anchor in anything that we learned and share it with other people. But the fact is that it's like it comes up almost every time organically that
Mhm.
no matter what we're going through, even the deepest grief and almost any other emotion, that if we're paying attention, there's often here or there at least some other stuff coming in, whether it's a moment of like, oh my gosh, a hummingbird, right? Like, and we're for a moment we're in that beauty. And so that we contain multitudes, I think, has become really important.
Yeah. And I think too, like for me, it's in a weird way, it's a permission to grieve if I need to grieve or be angry or sad or whatever I'm feeling, and still have that high performance draw to me to sustainably, um, as the car goes off in the
Yeah.
background, um, push forward for the things that I want in life. And like, it's not a competing thing. It's like both can be true. And then it's like what wins or what should win or what doesn't win becomes a different type of question. I think when we realize, oh, I can be both of those and a husband and a
Yeah.
coach and all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to go back to, so you were making a joke that was a little joke between us when you said, how are you? Because
Mhm.
today, one of the things that came up in the group is in our culture, in the Western culture, for sure, there's kind of I don't know, a formality of how you doing? I'm fine. How you doing? I'm fine. How you doing? I'm fine. Which, if we all pause for a moment to just think about that, like Sean said at the very beginning, that in the book Bittersweet, Susan Cain talks about how connecting it can be for us to
Mhm.
share the whole gamut of who we are. And I kind of think on the opposite end that how are you doing? I'm fine. It's almost just like closing the door right away.
Mhm.
That to
Mhm.
me, I mean, we really might be fine, and that's fine, of course.
Yeah. But it's also kind of this like flippant, like, okay, let's move past
Yes.
what could be this very connective moment. Like, fine, let's go. Come on. You know.
Well, and what just occurred to me, Sean, that I think is really important in what you just said is it was like it's sort of that, well, how we're really doing isn't as important as talking about this report that needs done or talking about the
Mhm.
dinner we're going to have or talking about whatever. It's almost like it belittles or diminishes that it really matters how we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our, and I noticed this when we were talking, but it's as if saying that how I'm feeling or my humanity isn't important, and whatever, it's not discounting, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. And that's, our friend Bo Eason, talks about how you shouldn't have to worry about how other people interpret your humanity. I think I got the quote wrong, but put your humanity out there, put how you're doing out there, and that's not for you to help manage how that manifests out in the world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Did I write that down? I think what you said, and I don't know if this is his quote, but I like the way that you said it in our group was, it's not your responsibility to hold back your humanity. Other
Hmm.
people can handle it or something to that effect, which
Yep.
I really did like that because also, I mean, and I know this for myself, when we're like today in the group, I think this happened where it's like when someone's willing to be honest, like, I'm not really feeling fine right now. It gives other people permission to be real. And then
Hmm.
back to what you said and what Susan Cain says is that's where the connection comes from, right?
Hmm.
There's not a lot of connection in me trying to just take care of everybody by saying, oh yeah, I'm fine, let's move on. It isn't, yeah.
Yeah. It's this like artificial barrier. And like, I mean, we've all experienced what it is to be fine, but it's not like, I don't know, maybe it's not something we're celebrating, you
Yeah.
know? Whereas, like, I'm not doing fine. My, you know, grandmother passed, it's like a human experience. We all kind of understand it or have experienced it ourselves. And then, that there's that connection there of we're all here and we're all here together. And the idea of that came up in the group too of that memento mori of,
Yeah.
we have a limited amount of time here, but you don't have that conversation or that connection to like memento mori or your own mentality if you're just fine and then you go
Yeah.
about your day.
That's so good. That's so true. Which is not to say, like, I mean, I was just thinking about this. Like sometimes we are just fine, which I guess in when we interpret that means like not neither here nor there.
Mhm.
But I think there's even something to be said for, you know, I'm just floating along right now, and then to name something, like whether it's on one side or the other, just to name something
Mhm.
to give someone something to respond to, because there's just not a lot to hold on to with I'm fine. And
Mhm.
I
Where
want
do you
to
go
share,
from there? Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to share just the start of the poem that I read earlier because I love, um, and this is by my dear friend and amazing poet Rosemary Watola Tromer, and it's called "For When People Ask." And all of her poems are available. Maybe I'll post the link below later. But for when people ask, the first part of her poem says, "I want a word that means okay and not okay. More than that, a word that means devastated and stunned with joy. I want the word that says I feel it all at once." And I won't read the rest of it here right now, but it's such a beautiful poem that pays tribute to that, all of it, and that our language is limited. And I think this is something that
Mhm.
comes up quite a bit with that question. Sometimes when people ask me, how are you? I always just say like, oh, that's a tough question,
Yeah.
because there's not one word, right? There's not.
Yeah. Oh, now I have to pick how I
Yeah,
am.
right. That's a good,
But
yeah.
yeah, I love, and when you brought it up in the group too, I love that you brought it up, or that the poem brings up that there's no word for this being in multitude. I'm grieving and I'm happy for my kid. But the language forces us to only feel one thing at a time. You know.
I, yeah, I think Bittersweet may be the closest,
Hmm.
which is the name of Susan Cain's book, But I think bittersweet doesn't always speak to the vastness of the multitudes, especially in the case where we're maybe grieving and also feeling joy, which, bittersweet maybe isn't quite large enough. I don't know why, our language sometimes feels so limited. Yeah. Was trying to remember the other things that came up today. Well, one of the things I loved, Sean, that's a little bit of a departure from what we were just talking about, but somehow in the midst of this whole conversation we were having, it seemed like our group turned to what we were calling the beautiful mystery, right? And I did love that. I don't even know where that came from, but I think it speaks to the sense of like connection that people started to feel. I know I do, right?
Yep.
You start to feel connected, and then suddenly you're in just a different landscape.
Yeah. Those words, beautifully mysterious, or how was it again?
I think I
beautiful
said,
mystery.
Yeah, the beautiful mystery.
It's kind of like you never know where you're going to end up when you actually like share about yourself, and I think because there was that honest people showing up, we're talking about somebody's friend had passed away, and a friend reminded me of something my grandmother wrote like a week before that she like sent to all the family, and she died very suddenly, and like that was kind of strange. And then but it was like the same phrasing, and then we kind of just started recalling all of these people in this kind of, I mean, every one of the people we talked about had been lost, but it was this mysterious kind of like almost, it wasn't the heart. We weren't talking about the heart stuff anymore. We're talking about the person, and I thought that was a really cool
twist, beautiful. Oh, that's such a beautiful observation, Sean. Right. And I think you're right. Like, I think I want to underscore what you said, which was that we don't really know where it's going to go when we start talking about something. And we may start with, gosh, my heart feels shattered today over da 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 da, right? Which is part of the hard stuff. And then, this actually happened with a friend and myself yesterday on the phone, where it was the anniversary of someone's death. And so it started with this kind of, hard moment, thinking about so and so. And then, I said, can you tell me a little, about her? Can you tell me what you loved? And that's usually a question that leads to more of that, like, multitudes place, right? Like, it's like the grief and the joy and the gratitude for having known this person, and the love and the humor. Yeah.
And I think that bounce too is super important, because a while back, I think we talked about, there's a psychiatrist I was listening to, and he talked about emotional resiliency, being able to take that strong sad moment and remember the good.
Yeah.
And that was his definition of emotional resiliency. And I'm like, oh, like the employment of the multitude, um I think that's why we go to funerals, to remember people, because it's that counterbalance, so that it's that person's not lost, or you're not, if you're taking care of people, like the last memories you have of them can be very tense and tough, but to remember that you did that because of how good it was.
Oh, beautiful. Well, one of the things that's occurring to me, and I know we have to hop off in just a minute, Sean, but one of the things that is occurring when you're saying that is, I think it's really, to me, and tell me what you think before we go, but I think it's really important that I don't try to force that bounce on somebody else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like for myself, I'm really hearing what you're saying, and I'm thinking about that, like making that bounce myself from, the grief to maybe a gratitude or a joy or a love place that might be a little bit of a bounce to something, less hard, for lack of a better word. But that it does seem like when other people do it, she's in a better place is one of the best examples of that I can think of in the moment, right? Like it's
Hmm.
somebody trying to say, like, please stop feeling what you're feeling because I'm uncomfortable with it. And, just imagine your person's in a better place. And the other person's left with like, but I'm sad.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think it's very, and then what we kind of formed this group 30 years ago about is to not just do that bounce blind. Like you have to kind of carry that with the new conversation. Because yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's not, you can't force it. I think that's kind of the toxic positivity type thing of like, no, just be positive and it'll be okay. And it's like, no, it's not okay. And we can have the sweet memory to maybe it's multitudes need to mix is kind of what we're
Yeah.
trying to get
Yeah.
at.
And I did notice in our previous meeting that someone made her own bounce, right? Someone made that
Hmm.
bounce from I'm not fine, I don't want to say I'm fine, to I feel really blessed that this person who was not doing so well, I feel like is now in, she kind of made that herself. Nobody
Yeah,
forced that on her. Yeah.
yeah, it happened that organically, which I was fighting like, but how could we and like, you know, but that's the struggle of running these groups sometimes.
And of being a human being, right? With others.
Being a human. Yes. So,
Well, Sean, thank you so much. I love our groups, and I also love this debrief that we do afterwards. And it's always fun when anyone who's listening now or later posts a comment and shares anything that might be coming up. So we always encourage you to do that. But it's just nice to be here to share this, to open up the space to talk about hard stuff's okay.
yeah, it's okay. And that's why we're here. So, thank you so much, Sherry. This is always great. I do love it too. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time, Mr. Sean. Bye, everybody.